This video is an optional video for literal equations. It's going to walk you step by step through how to solve these. So feel free to pause, rewind, fast forward. There may be some of the questions in part on topic 3 that you were able to do and some of the ones you were stuck with. So feel free to fast forward to the questions that you need the help with. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to walk you step by step through, but I'm going to give you opportunities to pause and try the next step and see if you can do it. So here's our first equation. And they want us to solve it for B. So I'd like you to go ahead, pause the video and see if you can figure out what the first step would be. The first thing I notice is B is in the parentheses. I also notice all of these things are multiplied. It's 1/2 times A times the parentheses times H. I don't care what's happening in the parentheses. I'll deal with that once the parentheses are by themselves. But I do see that everything, including what's outside the parentheses, is multiplied together, which tells me that's just a single term. What I want to isolate is this right here. So my very first step is I'm going to get rid of my fraction. And the way I'm going to do that is by multiplying both sides by 2. So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out what'll be on the left and the right after we multiply both sides by 2. What you should get on the left is 2v. On the right, this 1/2 and this 2 are going to cancel out. So I'm going to get A times my parentheses times H. Again, I'm trying to isolate B. So I'd like you to pause the video and think about what your next step would be, and then hit play to check your work. I want to isolate my parentheses. So I want to get rid of the A and the H. What's attaching the A and the H to the parentheses is multiplication. To get rid of multiplication, we divide. So I'm going to divide by AH. So on the left, I'm going to have 2v over AH. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out what'll be left on the right. On the right side, I'm going to be left with parentheses B plus C. To get rid of my parentheses, I want to distribute, but I'm just distributing a 1. 1 times anything is just itself. It remains the same. So I can drop those parentheses. Go ahead and pause the video. See if you can figure out what your next step would be to get B by itself. Last step is to get rid of plus C. So I'm going to subtract C from both sides. This is the last time I'm going to ask you to pause. How would you rewrite this side? Here's what you should get. 2v over AH minus C equals B. And there, step by step, is how we isolate B for that equation. That gives us, by the way, answer choice 4. Okay, here's the next one. So my equation is D equals 1/2 AT squared. What is T? Pause the video, see if you can figure out your first step. First thing I'm going to do, I notice this is one term. I'm going to get rid of my fraction by multiplying both sides by 2. What I get on this side is 2D equals. The 2's cancel here, so I get AT squared. Pause and see if you can figure out what your next step should be. I'm going to get rid of A. A is multiplied by T, so to break those apart, I'm going to divide. That'll give me 2d over a equals t squared. Pause one more time. See if you can figure out how to get t by itself. To undo a square, we do the opposite, which is a square root. Squared and square root cancel. So we get t equals 2d over a. And I should have said square root of 2d over a. There's your answer. Let's try this next one. Make sure you copy it down carefully. We've got a lot of subscripts here, but don't let those confuse you. They just stay attached to that variable. Okay, first step, we are trying to, if its initial temperature T sub I is an equation, oh, sorry, I read this wrong. If its initial temperature is T sub I, an equation to find its final temperature T sub F, we're looking for T sub F. First thing, let's take a look at what the right side is doing. I've got M times C times my parentheses. That means this is just one term. An example of something that is not one term would be something like AM plus BC. That's two terms, A times M plus B times C. This is one term because it's M times C times my parentheses. Even though there's addition in the parentheses, what's happening outside the parentheses is multiplication. So if I'm trying to isolate T sub F, think about what your first step might be. I'm going to get rid of the M and the C in one step. So that gives me Q over MC. See if you can figure out what's left on the right. Hopefully you recognized it's T sub F minus T sub I. Now, if you're getting stuck at one of these steps and you're not sure why it simplifies down to that, put a big star there and come in and ask me about it so we can talk through it together. My final step is to get T sub F alone. Pause the video, see if you can figure out how you would do that. We're going to add T sub I to both sides. And there's my answer. So that corresponds to answer choice 2. I'm going to skip 4 for now and 5. I do want to take a look at 6. So let's look carefully at 6. It says solve the equation below for x. So if I look at where x is definitely in more than one term, and it's inside parentheses and outside parentheses. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is get rid of those parentheses if I can. So I'm going to distribute the 4 in. Go ahead and pause the video and see what you'll get. Here it is. Now, before you go any further, I think it is a good idea, whenever possible, to combine like terms on the same side of your equal sign. And I notice I have 2 terms with AX. So if I have 4 AXs minus 3 AXs, that's going to leave me with 1 AX plus 12. And on the right side, I have 25 plus 3A. I'm going to go back up and reread. I'm trying to isolate X. You always want to keep track of where that is. X is in this term and nowhere else. So I want to get this term by itself on the left side. Pause the video, see if you can figure out your next step. My next step is to get rid of the 12. So I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. That gives me 1ax equals 13 plus 3a. My last step is to get x by itself. X is multiplied by 1a. So I'm going to divide both sides by 1a. And 1a is equivalent to a, so that writing it either way would be fine. So you could either write it over a or 1a. This last one, they're asking us to get f by itself. I like to think about getting rid of my denominator first. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 9. See if you can pause the video and figure out what will be left on the right-hand side. These 9s will cancel, so I'm left with 5 times f minus 32. Since f is in these parentheses, how would you get these parentheses by themselves? Pause the video and see what you think your next step might be. 5 is being multiplied by the parentheses, so I'm going to divide by 5. And now my parentheses, I can drop them because that becomes a 1 times f minus 32. And now to get f alone, see if you can figure out that last step. Adding 32 is how we get rid of the 32 on the right-hand side. And this is my final answer. Okay, hopefully that was helpful. Again, if you need some more practice, really with these literal equations, the more you practice, each time you try a problem, a little bit more is going to make sense for you. And practice is really what helps you to get better at solving these. So please ask if you need some more practice. Thanks so much. Bye.